Pleased to recognize now the ranking member of the full committee, Mr. Jordan of Ohio.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would yield my time to the gentleman from Kentucky.
I thank the gentleman from Ohio.
And the gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Mr. Lott, I was looking in your written testimony, the part of it that you didn't get to elaborate on in your opening statement, and I noticed something remarkable, a sentence here that says there was no drop in the number of mass public shootings with assault weapons during the 1994 to 2004 so-called assault weapons ban. Can you elaborate on that? And one other thing I want to point out before I turn that over to you is one of the most horrific shootings in history was at Columbine, and it happened in 1999, 5 years into this the so-called assault weapons ban. But can you elaborate on whether mass public shootings went down or up? Because today I've heard several times it stated that the 94 to 2004 assault weapons ban worked, and it's being proposed again. So I think it's important that we get the data and to the document that the chair just introduced into the record. I want to say you are the only authority that we have here today on statistics and data. So if the other side would like to offer some facts or statistics and data, I would welcome them to bring a witness that's as knowledgeable as Mr. Lott on this subject at some time. And I ask Mr. Lott to answer the question. Microphone, please.
Just one quick thing. You know, you look around the world, people seem to think that this only happens in the United States. If you just compare even Western Europe to the United States, does anybody know where the two worst mass public shootings were? They were in Europe. France in November 2015 had 130 people killed. Norway, about a decade ago, had 67 people killed. France, it takes over a year to go through the licensing process. It costs thousands of dollars. You have to get 2 psychiatric evaluations to be able to go through. They have every law that every state in the United States has, plus more. And yet they've had worse mass public shootings on both total and per capita rates. Anyway, there are lots of different measures of mass public shootings. The only one that people look at who make this claim that the number of mass public shootings went down is by Louis Clarivas, who's at the Teachers College at Columbia. And what he does, he has a different measure than anybody else. He looks at 6 or more people killed rather than the typical 4 or more. But much more importantly, he inconsistently includes cases involving robberies or gang fights. So most of the measures, the FBI measure for active shooting or for mass public shootings, specifically measures public attacks that are not part of some other type of crime like a robbery or a gang fight. They're trying to get at those cases where the whole point of the attack was simply to go and kill or harm other people. That's not saying that gang fights over drug turf aren't important, but the causes and solutions to going and stopping the types of mass public shootings that get people's attention in the news media are very different from the types of cases that you see that get the news coverage. The other thing that he does is you'd think he'd be looking at attacks involving assault weapons, but he lumps them together with all things. Well, even with his data, all the data shows that if it was a ban on assault weapons that was somehow causing a drop to occur, then the percentage of attacks involving assault weapons should have fallen when you have the ban, and then should have gone up. You know, if it's assault weapons that are driving the drop and then driving the increase after the ban sunset. But in fact, even with his data, what you find, because he lumps both assault weapons and other weapons together, even with his data, the increase that he claims occurs during the 94 to 2004 period is driven entirely by non-assault weapons being used more during that period of time. But anyway, it's pretty clear, no matter how you measure this, in fact, Clarivas was an expert in the California assault weapons ban case where I was an expert on the other side, and the judge ruled that his evidence was contradictory and was not acceptable by the court.
Well, one thing also that seems somewhat disingenuous about this claim from the other side of the aisle is the number of AR-15s, so-called assault weapons or military-style weapons, that were in circulation and ownership in the United States practically doubled during that period because the manufacturers quickly changed the cosmetics. The ban was based on cosmetic features of the gun. And so the number of the people kept selling. I bought an AR-15 between 1994 and 2004 myself because, in fact, they weren't really banned by function, only by style. So I think that deserves further investigation, whether that ban worked or not. It did not work, and I yield back.